everyone, and welcome back to another video. Today I am going to be bringing you guys a fun little video. If you've ever heard of it, it's called If You Like This, Then You'll Like This, and I'm going to be doing a biblical fiction edition. The idea behind these videos is that you pick a popular book and then you tell people, if you liked this popular book, then you're gonna like this one too because they're similar in style, or the writing style is the same, or maybe they're even by the same author. And I'm specifically going to be doing a biblical fiction edition. Piper, what are you doing? Okay, because you're so cute. I will allow this just this one time because you're so cute. Okay, if you're gonna do this, you need to sit on my lap. Okay, so the idea is, I already explained the idea. But you're distracting me. So I'm going to be sharing some popular Christian fiction books and then a biblical fiction recommendation based on that popular book. If you like this video, then be sure to leave a comment in the description box below. So let me know that you'd like to see a part 2 of this, where I maybe pick contemporary books and try to relate those to biblical fiction, which would be challenging, but I'm totally down for that. So without further ado, let me just begin. And Piper, I'm gonna have to put you down because you're being a little bit naughty. So disclaimer is that some of these I haven't read yet, but I'm going to be making assumptions based on like what I know about those ones. So the first one that I have is The Lost Heiress by Rosanna M. White, or basically anything by Rosanna M. White. If you're a fan of her work or, you know, her stuff as an author, then you might like A Stray Drop of Blood by Rosanna M. White. See, they're the same person. She actually has quite a few books out in the biblical fiction genre. I think like 3, maybe 4 out. So if you're into Rosanna M. White's writing style and you're also into biblical fiction, then these might be the books for you to check out. I haven't read this one yet, but it is like so high up on my TBR, guys. You don't even know. Just like the cover alone speaks to everything I want from a biblical fiction genre novel. Drama, there's a biblical setting, there's intrigue, and yeah, I really want to read this book. Like, you have no idea. So the second book that I'm going to be sharing with you guys is Where We Belong by Lynn Austin, or virtually any book by Lynn Austin. Lynn Austin has a phenomenal writing style that's just always so deep. There's always so many layers and things that you can just dig even deeper into her storytelling, and everything has such a phenomenal way of coming full circle in her writing. I cannot speak enough to her work and what she does. So if you like Lynn Austin's work, then you might also like Lynn Austin's 2 biblical fiction series. She has one, this one's called The Restoration Chronicles, and this one is called, what's the series title? Chronicles of the Kings. So this one has to do with like Hezekiah and his reign and his rule, and this one has to do with like the period after the exile when like the Israelites were trying to like rebuild Jerusalem and all that kind of stuff, I believe. I'm pretty sure, yeah. That's what this is about. I've mentioned this one a lot because it's on my like list of top biblical fiction series of all time. That's how much I love this. I love how like big it is. It's a nice big book. It's perfect for binge reading. And there's just so many layers to everything in this series. It's incredible. So I really can't recommend Lynn Austin's biblical fiction enough. She is one of my favorite biblical fiction authors when it comes to writing a well-rounded biblical fiction series. I feel like you don't see that many biblical fiction series these days where like all the stories are tied together. Like for instance, there's Jill Eileen Smith's Wives of the Patriarchs series, and all of those books are about one of the wives of the patriarchs, so like Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. But they don't necessarily tie together, like you can read them out of order. But Lynn Austin does a great job of writing like a series where there's actually like a series arc, and it's just very well done, and I love it so much. So this one is going to be like a kind of YA or younger generation, I guess, biblical fiction recommendation, and that is if you liked Romanoff by Nadine Brandes, or the exclusive bookish box dust jacket underneath. If you liked Romanoff by Nadine Brandes, which is a fun, fast-paced YA historical retelling, I love this book because it is so action-packed and fast-paced, and I love that in a book because it just keeps you reading. It keeps you flipping those pages. If you like YA, that kind of, you know, fast-paced genre, I guess, then you should definitely try A Light on the Hill by Connie Lynn Cassette or any one of her works, because her books are always so action-packed and fast-paced. I think that she does a great job of mixing a fair element of suspense and drama and intrigue in with biblical fiction, and I love that because her characters are also like usually a bit younger than the typical biblical fiction character, which is another wonderful trait that I admire about her books, because I think a lot of times biblical fiction characters can be older or the perspective can be a little bit more mature, and while her books do sometimes deal with mature topics or mature elements, the characters themselves are just kind of young. I find that I can relate to them very well as, like, you know, a 21-year-old. I'm 21 now. I just had a birthday. As a 21-year-old young woman, plus they're always super action-packed. This one has to do with, like, a race to find a refuge after the main character has been accused of committing a crime, and she has to, like, be on the run, and it's very suspenseful and intriguing. And we're also reading this book in my book club. If you don't know, this is a nice segue. I host a quarterly biblical fiction book club on Goodreads. It's called Biblical Fiction Buffs. You can search that on Goodreads, or you can follow the link in the description below to join us. We are a group of over 150 members who just like to chat online about biblical fiction and books. This is the book we're currently chatting about for the book club, but of course we also have lots of discussions just helping you find good recommendations in general. So if you're interested in biblical fiction and you want to be one of us buffs, then go ahead and check that out. The link is in the description below. So this next one is probably going to be a little bit obvious, but if you liked Redeeming Love by Francine Rivers, which is a historical retelling of the life of Hosea and Gomer, then you might also like Love in a Broken Vessel by Misu Andrews, which is a biblical fiction retelling of the life of Hosea and Gomer. So while Redeeming Love takes place during the 1800s out in like the wild, wild west, the old frontier days, this one actually takes place in like a biblical setting. So it is, you know, the biblical story, but in fiction form, and it is really well done. I love this book. I love both of these, but what I love most about this book is I was actually really skeptical to pick up this book because I loved Redeeming Love so much. It was one of my top favorite books of all time, and I was like, there's no way that anything could ever compromise this. And when I picked up this book, I was actually like really gonna be like super moody and sarcastic while I was reading it, and I was like, I'll read this and I'll give it a shot, but I bet it won't be very good. And I opened up to like the first page, and the first page is a note to the reader. And she literally starts off the note to the reader by saying, when you think of reading the story of Gomer and Hosea, what novel comes to mind? Redeeming Love by Francine Rivers, right? And that just like, I felt so convicted in that moment. I was like, oh my goodness, you read my mind, Misu. And then she followed that up with, because Love in a Broken Vessel is biblical fiction and Redeeming Love is a biblical story set in a prairie romance, trying to equate the two stories would be like comparing apples and oranges. Both are fruit, but very different yummy flavors. My hope is that readers will enjoy each one for the unique story it is. And I cannot stress that enough. This story is so unique. You aren't going to be getting the exact same story that you get in this book, but that is such a good thing in my opinion, because this story does such a great job of fleshing out their story and also just bringing to light the actual biblical context surrounding everything that these characters went through, and I absolutely loved and adored this story. The final, if you like this, then you'll like this recommendation that I have to give you is also another Francine Rivers recommendation, and that is just any old Francine Rivers book. If you like any Francine Rivers book, story, whatever, if you like Francine Rivers as an author, then these next books are gonna be for you. And there's actually five of them, I think. But I'm just going to hold up these two because they're the first in each series. The Mark of the Lion trilogy by Francine Rivers. It's a very wildly popular biblical fiction trilogy. It's honestly, I believe, one of those books that is credited with kind of resurrecting the biblical fiction genre, or, you know, at least making it more popularized amongst like readers and the Christian fiction community. And this is a New Testament era biblical fiction series following fictional characters set during a real period written about in the Bible. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, definitely go ahead and pick up that trilogy if you haven't already. Most people have, but on the off chance that you haven't, go ahead and pick that up. And then she also has a duology, and the first one is called A Lineage of Grace, and I think the second one is called Sons of Encouragement. And these are series of novellas, so it's a bind up, there's multiple novellas in here, so it's a novella collection or a novella bind up, if you will. And this one has the story of Tamar, Rahab, Ruth, Bathsheba, and Mary. And like the novellas are, you know, probably about like this thick per novella. This thick is one novella. And then in between, you'll have these little kind of like Bible studies / discussion questions. So like read the following biblical passage, answer these questions, and it kind of helps you connect the story to the scripture. This would be like a great tool for doing maybe a Bible study or maybe a biblical fiction book club. I don't know. If you want to see that come to Biblical Fiction Buffs, then definitely let me know, because I'd be happy to go through this with you guys in the book club. I think that could be really fun, really interesting. But this one is specifically about women in the Bible, and then her other one, Sons of Encouragement, is a novella collection about popular male figures in the Bible. So these are, again, going to be actual figures in the Bible, not necessarily fictional characters that experience real biblical events. So that's kind of an important distinction if that's something that you care about. So those are all of the if you like this, then you like this retelling or recommendations. Sorry, I don't know why I said retelling. Those are all the if you like this, then you like this recommendations that I have for you guys today. If you've read any of these or agree with any of these or have any other suggestions, then as always, be sure to leave those in the comment section below, because I know there are tons of people out there who would absolutely love to see more biblical fiction recommendations. And most likely, I'm guessing if you're subscribed to this channel, then that's why you subscribed as well. If you're not already subscribed, then be sure to go ahead and do that so that you never miss a new video. And be sure to hit that little bell icon so that you get a notification every time that I post a new video. All of my social media links are going to be in the description box below. I blog, I post Bookstagram photos, I update you guys all the time on socials about what I'm reading and what I'm doing with my life. If you don't know who I am, my name is Jenna Van Mourik. I'm an author of biblical fiction yet to be published, and I'm also a book reviewer who likes to talk about all things books, writing, and living, and Christianity and Christian living and all that fun stuff. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, then definitely subscribe, check out all those links, etc., etc., etc. Once again, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!